Hi, I'm Dr. Marc, and I'm going to help you sing and perform more like the top artists around the world. I'm a professional voice teacher, performance coach, and opera stage director. I've helped thousands of singers around the world learn the techniques and methods that got the top singers to where they are. Okay, so back for round 2 of TNT Then and Now. We're going to be talking about now. They just put out a video, Got to Be There, and I'm really excited to watch it. Haven't watched it through yet. Really excited to see how they've changed or how they've stayed the same, what's gone on. You can find a link to the first video of this 2-video series down below. And let's check it out and see what's made them so awesome, made the world fall in love with them, and what's kept our attention on them.
Got to be there, got to be there in the morning when she says hello to the world. Got to be there, got to be there, bring her good times and show her that she's my girl.
Okay, so a lot of really interesting things going on here that we're watching. First of all, we still see the upper tooth smile. It's still there, mostly. That jaw's really released on all of them. I would say it's even more released now than when we were watching the Then video from before. This song starts soft and high. These are 3 boys' voices who are in a part of their life where their voices are trying to transition. All kinds of really hard and confusing for most boys to figure out what's going on, especially with their singing voice. And it can take a long time for it to kind of settle down for them to be able to figure out what's going on. What's fascinating here is they're still really super consistent with their sound and their technique. They're in vastly different places recording with different sound qualities and different things going on. So kudos to them for still being so expressive, even considering that they're singing with something a screen in their face rather than actually communicating with live people. What's interesting is you'll notice that they're keeping that placement further back and a little bit aspirate, which is how they're helping it sound a little softer here at the beginning. They still have to keep that upper tooth smile that's still at place as going to that middle higher register for it to stay present and to have it not disappear and sound weak. The strength is coming from this ass bass, this resonance, this overtone series that comes from this jaw release, ass bass, upper tooth smile combination. And so it still sounds consistent with the rest of their voice, even though their voice doesn't live that high natively anymore. It's not as consistent with where their speaking voice is. And so they're having to be a little bit more conscious, deliberate. They can't rely as much on instinct. Luckily, it seems like they've been refining their craft since we watched their video from 2 years ago, so that they've been really successful in negotiating the changes that have been going on so far. So really, really cool. I really think that the airflow that they're using, the consistency, the quality of sound is really pleasant. It's really gorgeous. And I think they're doing an excellent job.
Oh, what a feeling will be the moment I know she loves me.
Okay, so you'll notice they're able to bite into the lower notes a lot more than they were 2 years ago. We have a lot lower notes that are a lot more full and beefy, right? The vocal folds are changing. And they're able to accommodate these beefier, richer low notes. What they're struggling to figure out how to negotiate here a little bit is how to then switch into this higher place in their voice and have it sound and feel consistent. That's really disorienting for the first few times because it can sound so different in our voice and our body than it sounds out in the room. It's covering a lot wider range of frequencies. And if you look at frequencies, as we're going up the scale, they exponentially get higher and higher. It's not just this even, we get higher and higher with in terms of the frequency as we go up. It gets exponentially bigger. And so that means that how we perceive and how those sound waves work change drastically as we go up the scale, right? And so when you're covering a wider range, it's going to feel really different in your head. Why? Well, imagine the difference between hearing a subwoofer through the wall versus a tweeter. You hear the subwoofer through the wall, and so it sounds really different in our head, and it bounces around in our body a different way. We perceive it differently than those higher pitches that just come out. And so they're having to negotiate that as they're going through, and luckily they have enough performance experience where they're able to kind of keep and trust their technique and the sensations and feelings, but it's still a real challenge here. They're not showing it, they're not showing in their body, and it still sounds great, but you can hear that there's some tentativeness in going between those ranges. In this part of their development, that's not surprising because these vocal folds aren't fully developed. They aren't, they're doing different things. They aren't fully reliable in what they're gonna do. But here they are as young boys having to produce a reliable product with an instrument that's not necessarily going to be reliable again until they're probably 18, maybe early as 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And really, it's not going to get super reliable until they're in their early 30s, probably. You'll notice that they're not letting it shake them. They're staying super smooth and consistent. They're trusting their technique, and that's the best thing that they could do. If you've ever worked with young boys' voices as they're changing, you'll know how impressive this is. I mean, really exceptional. Okay, so say if when he went up to this higher voice, he wanted it to sound a little less breathy, a little cleaner, a little more resonant, a little more forward. The temptation would be like, it's falsetto, he can't do anything about it. Wrong. He can. And you can try it out right now if you want to give it a try. What he would change, and I have singers come to me all the time where it's falsetto, well, it's going to be weaker. How do I get a stronger, easier voice there? And there's some really simple things you can do. And I think a lot of the times we call it falsetto when it's not falsetto. It's not the false vocal folds working. It's your regular vocal folds doing their job. You're just changing a bunch of things all at once and weakening the sound. So what could he do? Number one, he's using too much volume of air, too much quantity, and the speed's going too slow. So we need to reduce the volume of air, increase the speed. That's going to help clean up the sound. If you really focus on keeping it really buzzy and forward, that's also going to help keep it clean, forward, and sound robust and full. Now, I don't know what their intentions here. If they're wanting it softer in this moment, there's a quality to the song where it allows for some of that fluidity and change in sound and voice. But if you're someone who's interested in trying to keep it consistent and forward, like they did when they were younger, that's something that he could do. Again, whether his voice would accommodate that right now, don't know. I would have to work with his voice. When you're working with this age group, things can change over a day, over a night. The fact is, it's still really pleasant to listen to. It doesn't sound like a mistake. He's not showing us anything in his body that reads as a mistake. And I think that's another thing that's really huge. If we don't make it or show that it's a mistake, 99% of the time the audience will be just fine with it. Even if it's glorious, but we show something that makes the audience think it's a mistake, they'll think it's a mistake, even if it's unintentional or if it was perfect. So, what we can learn today, accept and let yourself just be in the moment and accept anything that happens as right in that moment. Judge it later, judge it after the camera's off, after the performance is over. Go back and listen to it, then rip it apart, then cry in your pillow, do what you need to. But whenever you're on stage or in front of the video camera, you have to focus on what you're sharing being a gift, and that you'll give your best gift, and whatever comes out is good enough. And that is what you're offering to the audience. You can't make them take it, you can't make them like it, you can't do anything other than just offer them your most genuine and authentic performance. And I think they do a good job of doing that here.
And show her that she's my girl.
Okay, you'll notice in that top register that they've lost a lot of this ass space in the higher registers here. They're really trying to go tall and drop that jaw in those higher registers. They didn't do that before. And I think what they find is if they actually did what they did before and keeping that ass space and that upper tooth smile and didn't try to go super tall with it, that they would actually still have the sound that they had before, just with this lower extension. The problem is with this lower extension, once they start feeling it, is it just is so different in the body. It feels different. It resonates different places. It works different. And so you'll hear them here really leaning into these lower voices. And for most male voices, as they're going through this transition, you'll notice that they really tend to lean into that. There's a lot of psychological reasons why they might be doing it, but I think if nothing else, it's just novel and new, and they're trying to spend some time there and now I have this. I didn't before. Let's use it. The trouble there is the temptation is to really lean into it and try to make it too heavy, too beefy, too big. And so when we then have to then go back up into that higher register, it's too heavy. We can't take it up there. The key is actually singing a little more gently in the bottom, trusting the resonance, not trying to push, keeping that openness, that forwardness, that brightness, that speech-like quality, and letting the airflow take us up and down in between this lower, beefier place that they're wanting to be and this higher, leaner, lighter place that they like to live in before. That's a lot more whiny up top, right? So I would really argue, and it would be interesting to work with them, I don't think that sound is gone. I think it's still in their voice. I think they've just been a little bit confused and trying to figure out how to negotiate this. And that's totally normal. They're doing an exceptional job. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes going forward. And this is an exceptionally difficult song to figure out how to negotiate that and get the colors that we kind of expect to hear, right? It's warm and it's rich, but it's also light and soft, and it's really hard. And they're doing a great job with it.
I need her sharing the world inside.
Notice it popped forward, got really kind of bright and rich, and it sounded really awesome. What happened? Upper tooth smile, ass space, tongue forward, whiny, buzzy. There it is. It's there. It's there. So that makes me then think that what we're hearing before must either be a choice or be someplace where they're feeling a little unsure and tentative and pulling back a little bit because they're just nervous about it. Again, totally normal and is not a mistake. I think they're just acclimating and figuring it out, and they're doing an excellent job at it.
Got to be there, got to be there when love begins, and that's everywhere she goes. I've got to be there, she knows. So when she's with me, she's home.
Okay, you'll notice when he just sang this higher bit, his top lip was covering those top teeth. The sound was a little bit more muted, pulled back, not quite as present and resonant. Try it. Try pulling your lip down over those teeth and then versus smile and see what happens to that sound. Record it so you can hear it played back and you'll hear a pretty distinct difference.
Whoa, got to be there, got to be there, be there, got to be there, got to be there, be there, got to be there, got to be there, be there, got to be there, got to be there, be there.
Okay, so closing points. They're really awesome. Even if you were to take away that they're in this weird part of life where their voice is changing, really exceptional performance because their technique was really consistent, really quite healthy and stable, even with an instrument that might feel very foreign and unstable to them. They're doing an excellent job there. physically with their presentation, they're just so expressive and so look so comfortable and native on stage. Obviously, they're not on stage, they're on camera, which is even harder in my opinion, and they're doing an excellent job. I think that as we see them going forward in the future, it's only going to get better and better and better and better. The foundation of their technique is so solid, so secure, and going so well for them that as they get acclimated and their voice continues to solidify and become more consistent and reliable for them in terms of just their physiology and their development of their anatomy, that they're going to just be awesome. And they're already so excellent on stage that if they stay engaged in trying to communicate and be excellent top-rate artists, if they're committed to that and keep working and progressing that the way that they seem to be and maturing with that, it's only going to get better. And whether they stay together as a group or whether they split off and do their own things or some kind of mix, I think we're going to keep seeing these guys year after year if they decide to. So awesome, both then and now. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Kudos to these gentlemen for being so brave and getting on and offering this song up to the world, even when it's so hard to do remotely from where they're doing it in all these different ways, and in this time of their life where they chose a song that put them in a really vulnerable situation and they pulled it off excellently. If you want a voice lesson or performance coaching, you want me to work with you or your group to help you sing easier, perform at a consistently higher level, you can book a time with me at foundyourvoice.com. It's the same place as mrperformingartstudio.com, just a little easier URL to find. You can also find me on wizio.com if you want to submit a short 5-minute or less video or audio clip for me to give you feedback on or to give you tips on what you can do to sing even easier. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Comment down below. I want to hear what you have to say, what you heard, what you loved, what you liked, what you disagree with me about, and I hope to see you again next time.